Tesla generalized FSD, even at level 3 based on vision only, will fail. Level 5, as a reference, will likely never happen in practice for any manufacturer. That is if vehicles are not equipped with, as a starting point, sensor heating and cleaning systems, which in turn probably will eliminate what we regard as a normal car from the equation. Level 4, which differ from Level 5 by the factor of a geofence, is however already deployed and functioning sufficiently, by Waymo in particular. Although these will still be improved in smartness and ability as well as in handling, for instance, more severe weather conditions. The reason for them working well enough and are safer than humans is LiDAR, radar, microphone, and lots of cameras. Plus the fact that the fleet have a standby crew that can, for instance, clean sensors when needed. De-icing cars when they start operating further north. It is more likely that the Tesla FSD system will be reverted down to level 1 when authorities have their say. Certainly so in Europe, since authorities eventually will get their eye on the high risks that suddenly quitting autonomous driving exert on an unprepared driver that is supposed to take over at a split-second notice. Something that, by the way, should ban even the line-following systems. However, front-facing collision radar is present in all other brands to mitigate the worst risks. Tesla removed the radar a couple of years ago by executive decision by Musk, it is said. Indications in 2024 are that a radar will be reintroduced. However, this is not commented by Tesla. The risk with these common simpler systems is generally when the system shuts down in a bend, which will make the car go straight. Luckily, these systems are mostly used on straight roads with good line markings. Also, those of us living in snowy conditions know that the driver assistance will cut out when snow cover the radar. So the safety lies in that it is not used. The common denominator of all of the shortcomings for Tesla Vision FSD is world perception, and those things has not improved for years. The problems actually has very little to do with driving. It's the input. A robot car thus need LiDAR and radar, or some imagined alternative technology generating perception. It also needs localized maps and localized behavior and decision models. But don't take my word for it, make up your own mind following the leads I will provide. A summary of shortcomings and sample clips from YouTube beta testers for you to look at yourself instead of taking my word for it. A problem in the evaluation for me as an observer and the error in judgment over the FSD system capability is that people moving about in traffic is pretty good when it comes to staying clear of other people. FSD beta testers focus on and look for the performance of output in certain situations, like turning smoothly or being decisive. Areas where the beta continuously fail will get very few videos. The videos that, despite this, does exist of the problem areas are also not published by the 20 or so biggest channels. Although working a lot with this, after a while you can pick up hints by the big FSD driver channels referring to the problem. There are virtually no videos of driving in low sun conditions by the big FSD. Don't get me started on beta on snow. If a person is not hit, that is deemed a success. But if a person is undetected and the person was never in actual harm's way but potentially within the scope of perception area, that is just dumb luck. The level of actual provocation of the system is way too low among the testers. Most miles are on single-direction roads in low-traffic daytime with not many unprotected people, virtually zero kids, and also light-controlled intersections and crosswalks. Not anything like Europe. As a third-party viewer trying to analyze these videos, you can look for a couple of things regarding object detection and classification. Comparing the visualization with the reality and comparing action or behavior of the car relative to visualized or not visualized real objects. What we can state for sure is that people in obvious visibility situations render a perfect 100% detection and visualization on display. However, sometimes at the wrong relative position and often facing the wrong way or flipping back and forth. For instance, a person against a gray wall in a red jacket is seen, but a person blending into the wall color is not seen. So, visualization is equal to detection and vice versa. What we see is that when there is a person not visualized, that any human driver and also FSD would take caution around if detected, the Tesla will for instance swoop by with inches to spare, keep accelerating or swerve towards the person. Then with this method of evaluation in mind, and others regarding sunlight or whatever, an attempt to disprove these methods by finding opposing samples is in order. I have done so meticulously but failing to counter the method viability. You can trust the visualization as a near 100% depiction of Tesla perception. What you can think about is the latency. I would believe it is in general a few tenths of a second. But this does, however, not affect the analysis. In situations where the display visualizes humans correctly, it will on version 12 take a human or superhuman action, 100%. It will not hit anything it can see and that it has placed the object in the correct position. Also seems to project direction of travel quite good. In exactly all situations where you hold your breath though, bracing for impact, the visualization on screen will be erroneous. Which concludes, the perception system is the failing part of the chain. To be clear, objects very far ahead is naturally not seen on a video filming the screen. Only the driver could see this by zooming in on the visualization as it occurs. So therein lies uncertainty as a second-hand observer. Thus I have not looked particularly much at distant objects, if they don't indicate some obvious decision by the car. Also, the decisions of the car and its behavior to stop correctly or not, or being able to recognize road signs or other. This does not concern me. That is solvable, as well as adapting to low-friction situations.
There's the kid. He's slowing down a little bit.
Jesus.
And it just takes it
Wow.
out.
Holy
Yeah, I mean...
Jeez.
General points of failure for FSD vision can be divided into A. Partial or complete blindness from light sources. B. 2D object recognition failure. C. 2D to 3D issues.
We have a right turn to make at the light ahead, and you can see a human driver squeezing the gap between the trash can and the car next to it, and I could not believe autopilot was about to try the same thing, but it did. I'm going to let you watch what happens here. It actually triggers the car's automatic emergency braking and makes it skid to a stop.
D. Picture brightness range. E. Semantic understanding through vision failure. Going through the main areas. A. Partial or complete blindness from light sources. 1. Low sun directly into a lens creating a complete whiteout. The car may or may not realize that it is blind. 2. Low sun at an angle creating glare or haze, either eliminating all vision or will see artifacts that only exists as reflection in glass or lenses. B. 2D object recognition failure. 1. Not detecting humans or objects that is unfavorable in color, i.e. matches background. 2. Not detecting humans or objects that is partly obscured, like an upper third of a body. 3. Not detecting the facing direction or the vector of motion for humans or other objects. 4. Not able to classify a cyclist seen from front, thereby miscalculating the expected speed of the object. Cyclist's head on mostly depicted as standing person moving fast. Two-wheelers are just appallingly poorly detected, ranging from scooters to motorcycles. The relative speed is a big factor, it seems. Relative opposing speed of 120 miles per hour or so seems to be the limit for a motorcycle. Lower speeds for smaller scooters. Dependent on angles, however. Most times they have to be seen in profile. 5. Not detecting humans or objects that is close to the Tesla. meaning that it fills up a large portion of the field of view.
So here we have a driver pulling between two cars and towards a trash can before the system deactivates and states park assist unavailable. Of course, this is when he gets close enough to actually need it. So the driver gets out to compare the car's 24-inch estimate with reality, and he eyeballs it closer to 3 to 4 feet.
See how it does. That was not quite what I expected.
It is painfully obvious when looking at these tests with drive videos in mind that very small changes in input result in completely different decisions by the car. The telltale sign of an unstable system, solvable with better models and perception tools. But when relying on a vision-based system, you will at the end be left with such variations as light, color, relative background, and the direction of light. Again, remember that an automated system performing worse than a top human performer in any reviewed situation will not be allowed.
Plans a path around the box, but same thing as the first attempt with the cardboard. As we get closer, it then changes its mind. Definitely not the result I was hoping to see. In this case, it was probably fine because the box was empty, but what if it hadn't been? Something like this could probably cause some pretty serious damage. Let's go ahead and give it one more shot at that.
The butterfly effect in reality. 6 attempts for the same intersection for the navigation to make a turn. 1 driver avoided crash. 2 correct ones plus 1/2 point as the Tesla follows another car. Follow John is recommended in most cases, greatly improves in all areas. Not a great result here. 2.5 out of 6 where 2 were directly hazardous. A decade into the FSD development, you would expect the car to make a right turn in a free and gigantic intersection at a 100% success rate. But no. Tiny differences render completely different paths down the decision tree. Who, in its right mind at Tesla, came up with the idea of a millisecond memory? Waymo projects all possible events 8 seconds into the future and then makes a probabilistic decision. Several times a second. Note that the decision thereby is re-evaluated continuously if new information comes to light.
The visualizations are showing, looks like autopilot's having trouble figuring out what this object actually is. You can see it's a trash can and then it turns into a cone. Also had trouble deciding which way it wanted to get around it. There was a few frames where it wanted to go to the right, but get around it it did. And I much prefer this result over the previous one.
What is hard to understand is why Tesla lacks memory. If an object was in front of the car a second ago and there is no conflicting information, it would be the safest bet that it is still there. Especially if it is projected to be in a known blind spot. This is one main reason for XPENG to place the lidars low. They believe that it is more important to see low and near objects than achieve long-range sight from a higher vantage point. Assuming that cost reduces the number of lidars at the moment for an ADAS system. An obvious parallel is the cruise accident where another car hit a person and the person ended up under the cruise vehicle when it was physically impossible to stop in time. Assuming that the person before getting hit by the other car was not able to detect as a risk beforehand by the cruisy. A contrafactual thought. Anyway, the important thing here is that the cruise cannot see under itself and obviously did not project the person as ending up below the car, thus continuing after it correctly stopped. A really hard problem. Sensors under the car may be a truly challenging environment for electronics. Tracking an object so that it is always determined where it went, maybe. Although seems there is a high chance of false positives. The vision recognition struggle with apparently joined objects. A human standing, pixel-wise, attached to another human or a car will not be detected. This is seen extremely frequently. As soon as a gap is present, detection is possible. People standing close will be one person. Probably for the same reason. See 2D to 3D issues. 1. Not able to gauge the correct distance to humans or objects. Especially narrow objects. The perceived shape of objects change with the car's movement, thereby sometimes hitting or hesitating due to miscalculated distance. Something severely impaired after removing the ultrasonics according to drivers. This far worsened if the car shifts its plane relative gravity normal. As we all know, a vision-only system struggles hard to see the difference between a near object and a far-away object. So small and near or big and far away, which is seen here very clear. Semantic understanding through vision failure. A painfully obvious problem that has shown almost no improvement at all for years is the perception of the static environment. It is just total crap. Relying on the road markings is a complete non-viable method. The streets and roads in the northern half of Scandinavia, for instance, is completely covered with often up to 4 inches of ice or super compact snow, if you will. So there are no road markings to detect. You have to rely on local knowledge, i.e. memory in combination with above signs for directions and lane selection. Information that very often is non-stringent and need to be combined with other sources of information. So a vision-only no-map system is just a no-go option here. The car regularly uses turn lanes going straight and vice versa, using cycle lanes, bus lanes, and illegal turns, crossing clearly forbidden continuous lines. This with perfect newly painted road markings.
The reality of mapping is not as you might imagine. A Tesla must build a map on the fly. But that doesn't actually work yet. So a Tesla can't drive everywhere. It can drive everywhere badly. The best other teams can drive well in the places they spend rapidly shrinking amount of effort to make maps. Well, hope springs eternal. There is no sign that mapping on the fly is about to work soon.
And now for something completely different.
At the stop sign, we got another Tesla Model 3, blue one on the left here. Right, a little bit of hesitation at the intersection. Possibly because of the pedestrian behind us or the cyclist, but okay, it's finally going now, good.
In short summary, the car has a normal plane perpendicular to the 4 wheels. So the vision system will, to simplify or actually just have a sporting chance of making sense of the world, assume that objects seen is projected on this normal plane. So that is where they are relative to the car. Imagine a lamp post. The distance from the lens is longer to the top than to the part of the post at camera height. So how far away is the post? The Tesla FSD vision assumes, as it seems, where the post hit the normal plane of the post. So when an intersection, for instance, when we have several normal planes at a large enough angle, the whole world perception falls to pieces. Also, there are some limitations of useful angles for the lenses themselves. But that is probably mostly a limitation downhill front view. As the Tesla drives through a multi-plane intersection and the vision plane several times shifts its direction relative gravity, flat earther or not, stationary cars will rotate in the visualization as the planes shift. Also, cars parked parallel to the travel direction on a sloped side street. They will rotate as the car passes by, being parallel as should only when right beside the Tesla. This is in particular seen with trucks and buses. Now most cities in the USA are pretty flat, so the chances of observing this is in San Francisco. Also, in most cases, this is irrelevant to the car decisions in most situations. Again, stop looking for what it does, look at what it doesn't. Why is Tesla simplifying the world so much? Well, theoretically this is just geometry. There are three general paths to go: Cartesian, cylindrical, or spherical coordinates, where cylindrical is way simplest. Remember also that the individual cameras are not viewing from the car mid-position, i.e. the cameras are not mounted round a point looking out radially. They have different angles that do not intersect in a common point. Nothing here is easy. If we go to the gold standard, Waymo, the LiDAR point cloud, which have the true distances to all objects in all directions, will with this surface map overlay the visual information on it. Then analyze the vision information semantically, also supported by radar info. That is the basic principle of it, plus time-shifted info and object-projected vectors. Tesla tries instead to make sense of time-shifted 2D images to build a 3D environment from, I believe, an idealization of the world to be a cylindrical slab, adapting information outside the slab to fit. Note that even though Tesla, with an absolute certainty, has done a lot of idealizations to handle the data, almost certainly way beyond what is a tolerable level for a viable system. Otherwise, we wouldn't see all these strange driving errors and artifacts. But only Tesla has the real answer, and they are not likely disclosing it. Vision Basics Brightness Range. The system cannot handle partly highlighted areas in the field of view. This is the physics of photography. You cannot take a picture with varying aperture or shutter speed in different sections of the picture. Objects will be missed in dark or bright areas. A person partly lit with high brightness, as in walking on a crosswalk in front of a car in the dark, will often not be detected. A way around the partial brightness is through using sequences of under and overexposure of the same object, i.e. exposure time. I know too little about how Tesla does this, but since the detection of partly highlighted people almost always disappear and that they at the same time is clearly visible to the in-car camera, it would be safe to assume that Tesla have failed adopting this. Also, thermal imaging for the infrared spectrum could be used. Technology already implemented in many cars to spot animals in the dark, for instance. Maybe this is a reason why Tesla keeps changing camera types, struggling to get the best compromise. Note compromise, not excel nor maximize.
The lane widened substantially, and the vehicle started lurching to the right, in what I think was an attempt to go to the center of the lane, just as an aggressive pickup truck behind us moves in to overtake us on the right. Despite the truck clearly being visible on the right blind spot camera, the Model Y still lurched 2 times to the right. It is possible that the sunlight shining squarely in the center of the right blind spot camera's frame was to blame for failing to detect the pickup, but that only strengthens the case to use additional sensors instead of solely relying upon cameras and Tesla vision.
Here is a clear example of the problems. Firstly, the Tesla seeing the pickup beginning the takeover, forgetting this. Then blinded by the sun twice and not realizing the blindness. Then keeps trying to perform the right lane movement. Twice interrupted by a flickering object. The original error here is probably the unrealized blindness. Possibly the most dangerous of all FSD shortcomings. Unrealized blindness is probably the immediate cause in this event. It seems from all examples that blindness in the center front camera is more likely realized. But there are some examples when not. light shining directly into a lens will of course blind the viewer. It is then virtually impossible to avoid a complete whiteout. This with some angle of incidence, and also luminance, as limits. Adding to this, the challenge varies relative to the ratio between the light source and the brightness of the background where you want to detect things. Realize here that in every direction relative to the car where a camera looks, there is a chance of blinding. So in practice you are not saved by multiple cameras. Not seeing backwards may be as dangerous as not seeing to the side. That leads to the conclusion that the 360 angle of the sun around you, which is important when you are driving and that you develop a lot of strategies to handle, is to a robot car devastating. The important angle here is elevation of the sun. In almost any 360 angle, the further away from the equator and the flatter the local geography is, the worse. This is why the well-known beta, or now supervised, channels do not produce any videos around sunset or up. This problem, however, also affects LiDAR and radar-equipped vehicles. These multi-system cars are able to navigate safely anyway, but at a reduced pace most likely. The non-vision systems do not provide enough information to drive normally without vision information. Not operating normally twice a day for hours is a problem. Detailed maps give much information, but such as the actual state of a traffic light might be a problem. Sometimes, for instance, when sun is right behind, at least in Sweden it is near impossible to see the actual state. Unfortunately, there's a list of other phenomena besides direct blinding. Flares, haze and glare. Glare is basically what we see in blinding, as we just went over, too much light. Flares are light that kind of bounces around in the optics, causing ghosts of light in different forms. Haze is when light enters at a low angle and makes the picture milky. Typically you can avoid this with hoods or different coatings on lenses. The risk of haze is dramatically elevated at some 60 degrees from perpendicular. What seems not so good is that the actual angle between cameras in a Tesla is about 60 degrees. That means that at any time where the sun is sufficiently low, one of the forward cameras will be subjected to haze or glare risk. As we see in many videos with light-disturbed drives. The drive is in one instance subjected to glare in one, and haze in another. Exact geometry, types of lenses and coating as well as the window glass which the camera is situated behind will render a much more complex situation than a simple angle measurement. You will get a set of angles that are good and a set that are bad for each sun elevation angle and azimuth relative the car. Simply put, a camera each 30 degrees would probably half the problems. Maybe this is one of the reasons for Waymo to have 11 cameras. Adding insult to injury, we also have diffraction in digital imagery. That is that the wave nature of light will cause diffraction when going through a narrow hole. It will not go only straight through, it will bend, and the same ray will end up in many places in a radial pattern. So a pixel in the sensor will receive information that really was meant for its neighbor, causing blurriness. Since Tesla, according to themselves, try to make up single pixels as an object. Especially further away, objects like curbs or roadside definitions. Signs and such may be a cat. Anyway, this adds further to the difficulties by losing contrast right at the start. Let us look at some real events where all these effects are in play. Reverting to the winding road first. It seems obvious that we here have a situation where the car's rotation relative to the sun's positions alternate between haze and direct blinding in the different cameras several times. What the system ideally should have done is to tell the driver at the very first instance to take over. But either the system does not realize that it is blinded or it has some kind of timeout time set. You can imagine that it is not very easy for a computer to see the difference between a cloudy sky and a hazed-out picture. Another problem, except from objects obscured by light effects, is apparent objects due to light. The notorious Tesla Phantom.
Off some of version 12's new abilities. This is what I mean when I think the visualization is disconnected from the driving. You can see a pedestrian moonwalks in front of us on the visualizations here, but the car does not care at all. Sometimes phantom pedestrians would appear for version 11, but it would actually control for those phantom pedestrians, and this one just ignores them. And again, just doing a fantastic job remaining extreme.
It seems, and many comments have been made from FSD testers, that the phantom effect changed with system version and that it also has increased in later versions. Also for autopilot, as in Europe. The reason for this is most likely that Tesla, after getting a serious amount of criticism from NHTSA and others, that they are now setting a lower bar for an artifact to be a real artifact. Better safe than sorry approach. However, even though this probably statistically will lead to less accidents, it will probably cause others by sudden braking. The performance of the vision system is what it is. They have to choose, and false positive is the best choice here. Even though it looks bad since drivers experience 100 false positives to avoid one false negative that they then doesn't know about.
I've done this specific roundabout on beta 11. That message you're seeing is the camera's blocked or blinded because of the sun.
One thing that can be seen is that when the system obviously is blinded, the visualizations of objects will disappear. And as soon as the sun is blocked, it will reappear again. It seems that this is related mostly to front view cameras. It seems that the system accepts being blinded in side cameras to a higher extent, but I have not been able to confirm this suspicion.
That's what happens. You have FSD beta on the cities and on the on-ramps. Sorry, it looks like it maybe actually slowed down a little bit there because we were blinded by the light. The sun is very atrocious on this freeway at this time of day. Right, so it's naturally slowing down to 50. There's no right on red. Oh, when the light turns green. Guess we don't forget to find out how it would have done there. Right there, it's apply force to steering wheel. I don't know why, because I was holding the wheel.
Worked just fine.
Yeah, agreed.
The car. Hello guys, my name is Dennis. Thank you for coming to my channel. And today I'm going to check the FSD beta 10.69.2.4. Very good. And now it's a bright sun here. Wow, I not even see anything. Let me add my sunglasses here. Wow, I don't know what was happened, but the beta asked me to apply some pressure. I think because of that sun, cruise control unavailable. Okay, I think because of that sun. Okay, now it looks like I could engage it. Okay. And I don't know what was that, traffic control, maybe. Okay, I don't know what was happened, but I think because of the sun and the beta, I don't know, you see the beta give me that message twice. Let's say control immediately and check. You see the beta have some problems here.
At least you're consistent.
It didn't show me right now. The car is nothing. Interesting. It still didn't show me nothing. I think because of the sun. Okay, you see now it show me the cars, everything. Let me try to double tap here. Okay, very good. Okay, it decided to clean the windshield. I think that my windshield is dirty. And you see that's the problems with the sun. When the direct sun. Interesting. I never see that before. And we could stop here. Okay, disengage the beta. Let me press here. Let me engage the beta again. Because for some reason the beta didn't. I mean, maybe it see that light, the traffic light, but it wants to go. And once again, here is very bright sun. But this time, the beta doing great. It's really bright. Okay, you see, now they better give me the same error again. But to be honest with you guys, yes, it's really hard to see, even for me with the sunglasses on. That's why I don't blame the beta for that. It's for safety. I hope it's not gonna give me that. How it's called? It's not gonna give me that 5 times, so the proper use to FSD beta will no longer operate it. I hope not, because that's, not my problem. I took the control right away. We'll see. But yeah, it's really hard to see. It's really hard to see on that bright sunlight. And I'm not gonna try to turn on the beta right now, because I think it's gonna be the same thing. But in this time, you can see the beta see the cars and the beta see the roads. No problem here. Actually, let me try to engage the beta again here. Alright, and it's a green light, and we're gonna start moving right now.
Not at all. So let's see if it will take the correct detour. No, it's going to go on this one. Nope. It just changed its mind. That was weird. I think the sun confused it for a second. Nope. That's a parking lot. We'll try again at this road. That's a yellow light. I don't think it was going to stop. So, yeah, I have no idea why I wasn't going to stop for that light. Yeah, so that was a couple roads in a row that it just totally missed. And then it tried to turn into that parking lot. The sun may be affecting it. No idea why it's okay, it just changed lanes and gonna let it go. All right. That is not where the navigation was pointing. What the heck is it doing? Wow. I'm just letting it do its thing. I have no idea. I've never been on this road. Okay. Just letting it do its thing. Oh. FSD. Okay, I can't see anything.